Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. It's Monday, September 25th, 2023, and it is 7:01 p.m. I'll begin our meeting with a land acknowledgement. We're on land occupied for millennia by the Adena, Hopewell, Four Ancient, and Shawnee people. Tonight, we are having our beginning of our meeting as a special session, and the purpose of which is to be able to pass an appropriation ordinance that we didn't realize had the quickness with which it needed to be placed in order. So our first item is establishing a quorum, and all members of council are present. We now have an ordinance for second reading, and this is 9523. This is an ordinance amending the 2023 appropriation ordinance 15522, and this is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. I'd like to make a motion to approve 95-23, to suspend the rules because the Recreation Department needs to pay their bills and needs their bank account to have money in order to do that.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and second for suspending the rules. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. The rules have been suspended, Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. I'd like to make a motion to approve 95-23.
Second.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and read through this ordinance. There are a number of appropriations in it, one in particular which is very time sensitive. The 2023 appropriation ordinance 155-22 is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the following sums: $8,400 to the general fund, other administrative, for the Ohio Governor's Imagination Library; $2,500 to the cemetery fund to replace a damaged granite bench; $4,298.91 to the Recreation Fund 270. This is from the skate jam to fund city skate park repairs. And finally, the most time sensitive of these appropriations, $200,000 to the APR Fund 273 for transfer, and increasing the total appropriations by the same amount. Section 2 concerns a transfer. The 2023 appropriation ordinance is amended by decreasing Stormwater Environmental Coordinator Fund, transaction code 500 by $500, and increasing transaction code 200-300 by the same, decreasing and increasing the total appropriations by said amount. And finally, section 3, the auditor is hereby authorized to make the following interfund transfer from Arts, Parks, and Recreation Fund 273 to the Recreation Fund 270 in the amount of $200,000. Thank you, President Isley.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and second. Do we have any questions or comments about this ordinance? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is passed. Thank you. And we will now adjourn this special session, so if I could have a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. We'll now move on to our committee meetings, the first one being the Finance Committee. And this is chaired by Councilmember Crowell and joined by Council Members Reisner, Ziff, and Skelness.
Thank you, President Isley. We have a number of items on the Finance and Personnel Committee agenda this evening. The first one on our agenda is the Rainy Day Fund, otherwise known as the Budget Stabilization Fund. And the reason for this, and Council has documents on their drive about the Budget Stabilization Fund policy, is to finance unanticipated revenue losses or unanticipated expenditures in the general fund when revenue collections do not match expenditures. There is a recommendation from the city administration to seed the Budget Stabilization Fund with $500,000 that is being cleared up from having been appropriated for the fire department headquarters. And then when we went back and got the higher amount approved through bonds, that frees up some of the money that came out of the general fund for the fire department project. And $500,000 of that could be placed inside the budget stabilization fund. And another source is the investments that the city of Athens is able to do through our very efficient treasurer, including interest through the Appalachian Community Grant that the city has received. Are there any questions from the committee about this plan, or should I ask the auditor to share her thoughts before?
Yeah.
Please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm the one who brought this up. Having a rainy day fund is pretty common. The state has one, the county has one, they have them all over the country. And there is language in the ORC allowing us to have a rainy day fund. They don't call it that. There are two types of funds we can have. One is budget stabilization, and one is capital projects fund that can only be used for that. So since we are able to put some money in there, it looks like right now, money that we won't have as revenue permanently, but if we put it in this fund, it will be available if we do need it in the general fund. This is really to stabilize the general fund. That is the fund that has our general obligation dollars. That's the fund that we can use to help build the fire department. We can use it to help other funds. But there's no other place for the general fund to get money if we were to run short. We do have a cash reserve policy of an amount of money that we need to keep in there. So if there was some kind of crisis or change in our revenue, we could keep going for at least 6 months. And so this looks like a really good time for us to do this. The interest going into other funds, that's also addressed in the ORC, will still go into other funds. So part of the interest going into there, as Member Crowell said, is from this extra grant money that we're getting. We're not required to put that back into that fund. So it's basically amounts to administrative fees for us for administering those grants that we'll put in there. And then there's interest, a lot of interest from our fire department bonds right now until we start really spending that. So we're getting started, and that neither one of those will be a permanent source of revenue, so it would be really nice to build this fund up. So one other thing I thought you would like to know, and I can send, the ORC reference, it's really pretty short, but it's addressed in the policy also. The 8.5% of our revenue in the general fund for 2022, which is how you set your maximum contribution from year to year, would be $1,362,337. Which we're not going to meet that, but we'll put in what we can. And starting off with this $500,000 is really a huge help. Right now, we have about $11,000 in interest that we can put in there, which is nice, but we've got a good start. The mayor has agreed to that, and the finance committee. And so we'll have a good start and continue to add money when we can. And then if anything changes, then we have that money moving forward. I don't know if I have anything else to tell you, if there's any questions about the policy or anything.
Member Eisner.
The monies that go into the stabilization fund, can they be invested to draw interest on, since they're not really being used until we absolutely need them?
Well,
I mean, can we earn a little bit off of?
yes.
Yeah.
We can earn, that fund can earn the interest that it accrues from, say, the $500,000 right off the bat. That interest will go back into that fund. It will earn interest.
Ah,
So we have, I could send that out. Our interest revenue has, gosh, jumped up, I don't know, a couple $100,000 total this year. I can send you that report. I ran it a couple months ago that shows you all the funds that get interest. And it's based on, every month, we apply whatever interest we get from our monthly bank statement into the funds who get interest. And it's based on their fund balance
Yeah.
at that point in time. So it varies.
right.
Some get more than others. But yes, we will accrue interest and put it right back into that fund.
You know, the reason I brought that up was, I've been getting these emails and messages from, I hate to say our banker, but, you know, from the bank that we do business with, saying, you know, now's the time to buy our CD. It's 5%, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, how much do I have to put in to get that? Oh, $250,000. I'm going, ooh, well, I think I'll pass on that one. But-
Won't be doing that one. But yeah, so ours is just a general whatever interest we get based on the balance. So the interest, we already have our investments in our high balance savings gets interest, and our CDs, and other investments that we have. So all of the interest from all of our investments is divided that way, percentage-wise.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah, especially right now, as you said.
Member Spilnes?
Oh, thank you. So I figured I kind of understood what was going on, you know, all the way through. And then the last bullet point, I thought if you could clarify that a little bit, that would be helpful. Money deposited into the Budget Stabilization Fund will come from interest earned on investments from the Appalachian Community Grant. So that's the only one, or there's a lot of them, or?
Well, that would be the main one. So we went back and forth about what to promise or commit to this fund. So we're putting $500,000 in there right now. So right at this point, that's the one we know we will be getting interest on and can put right back in there. So that money, you know, is not going to last forever or even very long in the big picture. We can change that. I almost did. I had wording that said, or other investments as council approves, or something like that. So I wrote that, and then we took it off and thought maybe we'd leave it simple right now, and then, you know, it can be changed when that changes. So that's maybe something council has
It felt
feelings
sort of
about.
narrow to me. I don't know.
I know. I thought the same thing. You can ask Leanna. I had other wording to add, but right now, that's really our main source for that anyway.
Well, if it's the main source, it still means that there's other sources. So I'm wondering if that language might be tweaked just a little bit.
There could be, but actually, right now, that is really the only place we were planning to put the money in there from. Because of this agreement we have where we're administering this Appalachian Community Grant for us and 4 other entities or, you know, projects. And so it's really, that amounts to our administrative fee, which we get administrative fees for administering FEMA grants and some other things. And so it really is just that right now. But the only other thing right now would be the interest that it actually earns itself. So we haven't collected all the money for the Appalachian Community Grant. That will come in as people start their projects and they request the money. It's a reimbursement grant, actually. And we can turn it around pretty quickly, and we've already started doing that for Somerset and maybe Logan. But yeah, that money will be coming in as long as people are still trying to get their project finished. And we will earn interest on that for, I don't know, a couple of years. I don't know, Mayor, if there's a deadline for us to spend that money, but.
2026.
Okay, so that would end there. So we could consider adding something else to that. Part of me wants to change it when the time comes and we know where else we could afford to, take money from, basically, is what that amounts to. I'm not sure what condition our general fund will be in then. We're in good condition now, but that is mainly because of CARES Act money that we were able to put in there. And, it's little by little, we're using up that money. And so, yeah, because we won't get that again. And so unless we have some big flush of revenue, and I will say this, part of it is because the main source of revenue in the general fund is income tax. And we are struggling a little bit with that, as we have for the last few years. Now, the work from home tax revenue is evened out, but that means we're getting less revenue in our resident tax account line. But there were some new laws put into place, tax laws at the state level regarding businesses. And there was a 5-year kind of phase-in process for that. And we have come to that. And so now we are losing business revenue because of that. And we will probably at least through 2024, maybe into 2025.
Member Spianis, thank you. That was a good question on the future sources for this budget stabilization fund. Any other questions from the commission? Other members of council? Member Swank.
I have a couple here. Up at the top, it says, let me get back to it here, sorry. To finance unanticipated revenue losses or unanticipated expenditures in the general fund when revenue collections do not match expenditures. You've been auditor for quite some time. During your tenure in office, have we ever experienced that?
Well, no, we're not allowed to spend money we don't have, number one. Have we been really low and lower than we should be as far as unappropriated monies for emergencies? Absolutely. We were not in great shape when I took office in 2004. And so we've done a lot better since then. We have a cash reserve policy. We have maybe reined in some of our expenses or expenditures, I should say, which is another part of this, is before we use any of this money, the budget would have to be adjusted to see if there are any other places where they could save money instead of us just subsidizing. We don't want to just put it in and have somebody say, oh, I need this, I need that, and keep moving it out. So, yeah, we're just not, that's in the ORC too. We're not, and as an auditor, we're not allowed to spend money we don't have. So we have been very, very, very tight in our budgets. But we've done really well the last several years, even before we got this CARES Act money. However, our revenue did drop during COVID, so the CARES Act money has just kind of helped us replace that. But yeah, we've never gotten in a place, we just can't do it.
Okay, that's good here. Second question involves the last bullet point. Money deposited in the Budget Stabilization Fund will come from interest earned on investments from the Appalachian Community Grant. You alluded to the fact that as administrators of that grant, we collect a fee. This is a two-part question. Is that correct? We get, for administering a grant, we collect a fee?
No.
We do not collect a fee?
We do not collect a fee.
So in a sense, we're...
The interest, the grantor has, we've been in contact with them, Andy Stone, our service safety director mainly, and we realized that there would be a fair amount of interest earned on that money while we are collecting it and then forwarding it to the other entities as they need reimbursement. And so the agreement is that the interest earned on that money is our administrative fee.
The agreement with the other 3 municipalities, so they're fully aware.
No, yeah, no,
So-
they're fully funded. They're getting what they're
Well,
getting.
I'm not worried about fully funded. I'm worried about, are they fully aware that money that's going to this grant, which we're administering, that we're going to make money off of it?
I don't know.
I mean, if I read that in the paper, I'd be a little concerned if I make a shocked, and where I might have stepped up and said, you know what? If I had known that, we wanted to be the administrator of the grant.
None of those other entities could ever have been the administrator. That's why we are.
Okay, well, they could or couldn't, but you see my
No,
point.
they couldn't.
No, I
They
said
could
whether-
not. I'm
whether-
telling you
no,
right now, they are not big enough, and that's why we were chosen
Understood.
and given these other
But
Somerset,
do you see the
et cetera.
potential possible PR implications of this? I think it'd be a courtesy,
All right, that's not up to me, but
okay?
yeah. They could not. The state would not have
No, I'm
allowed
not
them to
implying they
do
could.
it.
Yeah, I'm not implying they could.
And the fact that they aren't doing the work that we're doing in my office to administer this, makes me think that, yeah, they would really not have any issue with it, but yeah, if the
Thank you,
mayor or
Auditor.
somebody wants to tell them, we can.
Thank you. As the auditor said, they're getting their full amount of their requested funding for their projects, so I don't think it'll be a problem on their end. Any other questions, Member Swank?
No.
Other members of council? Anybody from the public? City administration, anything to add tonight about the Budget Stabilization Fund?
No, I think this is the right thing to do. I think the auditor is correct that we do need to have a rainy day fund for the city of Athens, and now's our opportunity to do it. I do want to add one more thing that the auditor had mentioned, and that is with the ARPA monies that do exist, we too have until 2026 to expend that money, by federal law. It's all part of the recovery from COVID. So we too have a timeline. So that isn't something that I think we can think, oh, we can just keep carrying this forward and forward and forward. We can't. At some point, we're going to have to expense it and then use that in our reporting back to the state and federal government.
Thank you, Auditor. Okay, moving on to the next item on our agenda. This is the Armory and finalizing the project funding connected to our previous conversation. We have a number of ordinances that will be coming through next week that sort of establish the final costs and the appropriations of monies for the Armory, which is project number 313. And it involves the creation of the Athens Community Improvement Corporation and the Community Improvement Corporation Fund. So we will have, I'm going to go ahead and speak to all of these ordinances at once and then take questions. The Service Safety Director will be authorized to expend a little over $1.2 million for that project 313. 914,000 approximately of which is authorized from the City of Athens to that ACIC fund as per purchase order for that project. Separate ordinance is authorizing funds to the Athens Community Improvement Corporation for the payment of the Armory electric bills. There will be an appropriation of $4,500 for transfer from the general fund to the ACIC fund. And finally, the final ordinance authorizes our Service Safety Director to enter into a grant agreement with Jobs Ohio. And we have additional information on our drive about that Vibrant Communities Grant Agreement. And this is again specifically part of the Armory Project 313 and the agreement we have with local entities to utilize the space and the number of jobs that will be created through that utilization. Are there questions from the committee on these ordinances for Armory Project 313? Member Spianis.
Thank you. I'm curious about where we're at with the Armory. It seems like we've been talking about it for a long time, so I just want to see it done and over with and moving and providing revenue and whatever, so where are we?
Member Spianis, I know we all feel that way, and the mayor maybe more so than anybody. It's been a while. Mayor, you want to give us a recap?
Please. And Councilmember Stillings, I wasn't laughing at you, I was laughing at how long, through my lens, that it has taken. It's been since 2012, when I was a city council member sitting near your seat. And so, at this point in the game, with getting these pieces of legislation through, we're gonna really be on the run, to getting the contractors in and start doing the demo work that's necessary. And once everything is demoed, that needs to be demoed, then having the contractors come in to do the HVAC, to go in and redo the plumbing, sprinkle the building, start doing drywall where that's needed, and working on the Veterans Hall of Honor, which is going to be one of the many projects inside there. So it's going to take approximately 12 to 16 months once we get rolling, and we hope to start in October. So that's where things are at. So please be patient. I can tell you, I have been painfully patient on getting this project across the finish line, but we're there. The capital stack is there to be able to have this redeveloped into a usable building that the public can once again enjoy, and to have business taking place inside that facility as well.
Good to hear, thank you.
And I'll just, sometimes, Member Spianis, we're all just waiting for a groundbreaking ceremony. So if you haven't got the information yet, I believe it's October 16th, Mayor, if that's correct. I don't know if you remember off the top of your head. I believe it's October
I think it
16th,
is.
10:30 at the Armory.
It is.
Is that changed?
No, that's correct. The groundbreaking ceremony will be mostly for elected officials as well as other entities that came forward with funding for that building, and in particular, Jobs Ohio will be there, because Jobs Ohio came forward with almost almost $1 million in Vibrant Communities monies. So that will be happening. The groundbreaking will be on the 16th of October.
Great, thank you.
I don't know what that groundbreaking is actually gonna look like, but
Yeah, maybe not actual groundbreaking, but
it's interior breaking.
other questions from the committee? Yes, Member Ziff.
Just not a question, just a tiny comment. Just how, with Member Spiala saying, when are we gonna hear about it? To hear an actual defined, real, tangible timeline for this actually being finished is so cool. It's just so cool. I'm just so excited that we're actually reaching this point. So, yeah, good job everybody who's done this. Sunday Creek and Jobs Ohio and everybody here. And yeah, go us. I'm just pumped.
Other questions from the other members of council? Yes, Member Swank.
Couple related to the Jobs Ohio grant. I'm just drawing a complete blank. Can someone share with us a little bit more information about Blue Dot?
So Blue Dot is a local remote work organization, I think currently working out of the Athens, are they still in the Athens Central on Carpenter?
Athens Works.
Athens Works.
I think is still located within Central Venue.
Central Venue.
Yeah, but this is more than that. So this is basically a board under a 501c3 that will be the organization that is running daily operations inside the facility. They'll also be the ones who are responsible with routine maintenance within the building and things of that nature. So that they will be basically orchestrating things for the main tenant that'll be in the building, which is going to be the Athens County Foundation. Will be moving into the mezzanine area of the Armory. And so as a tenant, things will be running through Blue Dot.
And there's plans for this, drawings and stuff for the Armory, or have we gotten to that point yet?
There is final design for the Armory is already out there.
Okay. Well,
We can get you a copy.
yeah, I would love to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then the second question, when you get down to this project accomplishment, commitment number 2, the City of Athens, through its existing and prospective tenants, will commit to the creation of 8 jobs and not less than $498,595 in annual payroll. I'm pretty confident it's going to happen, but what happens if it doesn't? Because it clearly states, will commit.
Well, I'm the eternal optimist.
Well, I preface by saying to that the same thing, but
I know you do.
heaven forbid we have a depression or something.
I believe that, that there can be adjustments in time if we don't hit that mark. I've also been working as a board member for the Athens County Economic Development, and when I see other grants that are similar to this that go through for other entities that have received similar grants to where they have a benchmark of, or they commit to a benchmark of having so many jobs within such and such a period of time. Organizations like Jobs Ohio also give grace periods and know, okay, well, you may not get it now, but we need to see you commit to this by X amount of months moving forward. That's not atypical with what I've seen. As long as you're showing that in good faith that you are creating those jobs or those jobs are being filled, then they'll work with you.
Yeah, 'cause that's 8 $63,000 jobs. Okay. Thanks.
Other questions from other council members, members of the public? Mayor?
I have a comment to share with council. This will be, in particular, the Vibrant Communities Grant is something we're going to have to suspend after first reading because we need to get that money in place and start moving that forward and sign the contract with Jobs Ohio in order to get that. And that's part of this as well, is getting that, the Service Safety Director sign the contract to have that money flowing into the CIC.
Thank you for that advance notice. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to the next item on our agenda. We have an appropriation to discuss. This is an appropriation of $250,000 to the Medical Insurance Fund, 866. This is for the professional services line within that fund. I know our agenda indicates personnel line. We do not have personnel connected to that fund line, but this is for professional services, for medical payments, for employee insurance matters. Are there any questions from the committee on this appropriation? Other members of council? Public? Mayor, anything to add? Thank you. That completes Finance and Personnel. President Isley.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to City Services. That's Chair and Safety Services, chaired by Councilmember McCary, joined by Councilmembers Grace, Swank, and Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. Our City and Safety Services Committee has just one item on the agenda this evening, an ordinance amending Ordinance 11-23 authorizing construction of a new fire headquarters, project number 346. And this topic has already come up a little bit earlier this evening, talking about now that we've got revenue from bonds, how we're going to transfer funds in order to pay for fire station expenses. I will read the ordinance. Whereas Ordinance 49-23 provided for the issuance of bonds for the purpose of financing the cost associated with construction of a new fire station in the amount of $4 million. And whereas it is necessary to amend Ordinance 11-23 to replace the general fund and ARPA fund authorizations with those provided through the bond proceeds, be it ordained by the Council of the City of Athens, Ohio, Section 1. Section 2 and 3 of Ordinance 11-23 are hereby amended to read as follows. The 2023 Appropriation Ordinance O-155-22 is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the following sums: $8,400,000 to Safety Services Fund Fire 206.208, transaction class 500, and $4 million to Safety Services Fund, $4 million to Safety Services Fund Fire 206.208, transaction class 500, and increasing the total appropriations by said amounts. Section 3 reads that the Service Safety Director is hereby authorized to expend up to $13,670,000 as follows. $670,000 from General Fund Fire 101.208, transaction class 500. That includes $70,000 authorized by Ordinance 18-22 for planning/preliminary engineering, and $600 million authorized by Ordinance, $600,000 authorized by Ordinance 84-22 for design and construction management services. $13 million from Safety Services Fund Fire 206.208, transaction class 500. That includes $600,000 for land purchase and site preparation authorized by Ordinance 121-22. And that is for said project 346. This ordinance shall be in effect and full force upon its passage and approval by the mayor. Let's open for any questions or comments from committee members first. Councilmember Swink?
Do you think this will do it for the ordinances related to financing for the fire department, firehouse?
Well, we've certainly seen a lot of changes in our anticipated expenses
Right.
and our funding strategies.
But I see that
but
13 million there, I think that should do it.
Yes, I don't know if our auditor wants to make any comment at this point, but at this point, we are hoping that we're not going to see any additional financial needs for the construction. I know we started off significantly lower.
Thank you.
Other members of council who are not on the committee? Comments, questions from the administration? How about from the public? Let's build a fire station.
Here.
That concludes our City and Safety Services meeting. Thank you, President Isley.
Thank you. All right. Our last meeting, committee meeting tonight is Planning and Development, chaired by Councilmember Grace and joined by Council Members Crowell, McCary, and Spelness.
Thank you, President Isley. And this evening, we have just one item on the agenda, and that is the disposal of municipal property. And the city of Athens owns a piece of land somewhere 75 plus acres in Canaan Township. And this land has in past been used, the fields have been used as a place where the city spread sludge from our wastewater treatment plant. When that is done for years, then the nutrient content of the soil reaches a point that we can no longer use the land for that purpose, and it needs to be farmed to draw those nutrients back out of the soil. And so that is the current situation of at least some of these acres. And we think that there might possibly be the opportunity, though it seems not terribly likely, that at some point in the future we may be able to use some of the land for spreading sludge again. But there is a portion of the property that is has road frontage that totals just under 22 acres that the city administration, in looking at the property there and what we are able to use the property for, has determined that is really not needed for municipal purposes anymore. So the way that the city can dispose of property is through an action of council determining that it is not needed. And then the property can be put out for sale with different rules being put in place. And This, members of council have on our drive a description of a 21.75 acre parcel, and it is a very detailed description of exactly where this property lies. And should council decide to move forward, we don't yet have an ordinance, I don't believe. Like, there's not one on the drive? No. Okay. But I believe what the ordinance that we would be, that I would be introducing at our next meeting of council would be to authorize or state that this is not needed for municipal purpose. And my thinking is that it could be placed for sale under auction, and we could set a minimum price. So I have some additional notes here. And thank you, Clerk Walker, that it could be advertised, and the city could accept sealed bids, and we could specify that we would not accept a bid for less than the appraised value. We can also retain the right to refuse bids. So that's, anyway, a 21.75 acre parcel in Canaan Township. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Yes, Member Spielness.
I'm just curious under what circumstances we can refuse a bid if it's over or at the price we're asking. I'm just, seems like a legal question, but I'm just curious.
I would absolutely want to defer to our law director on this, but I think from previous conversations, we can, I see the mayor making a motion. Did you have an answer for us?
Yeah, under ORC, we have the right to refuse any bid that comes into the city. That's one of our protected rights as a community when it comes to contracts, when it comes to bids that come in for other things in the city. But it also can apply to the sale of land that the city has. You know, if I may, take a minute to kind of accentuate a little bit of what Member Grace was saying. You know, I believe that one of the best approaches for property that is being used now commercially, not our property, but property in that area right along US 50, you know, is one of the things that makes the land valued at the level that it is. And therefore, to ask for that minimum bid, you know, that would be probably what I feel to be the most responsible thing to do, since we do have a appraised value of what that property is worth, that we use that as a starting point and then see what comes in. I'd also like to add that that property, the 22 acres, also comes with an access easement, because we will retain the remaining 55 acres. I have been in communication with organizations such as Rural Action, who are looking to create some native tree planting farms. Currently, that property is being farmed by an individual, and we're not receiving any revenue from the person who is farming. So the person is just basically profiting from our sludge field. And so therefore, to look at something different down there that may accelerate the removal of the high nitrogen and phosphorus rate levels down there on that field would be something interesting to explore. But my point being, those easements are going to allow us to cross over that property if sold, so that we do have access to our remaining 55 acres of land.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we can refuse any bid without having to provide a reason, is my understanding. And I think the opportunity or the possibility of some native plants or native trees on the remaining acreage is very interesting. That would be nice to see. But yeah, we would retain access to the remaining acreage, and also any funds from the sale would need to go into the sewer fund, because it was the sewer fund that originally purchased the property. And if this goes through as, and sells for the appraised value, it will be a nice return on the sewer fund's investment. Are there other questions from members of the committee? Member Reisner?
You said the proceeds would go into the sewer fund. Do you mean the sewer debt fund?
I think initially the sewer replacement.
The sewer?
I believe that the funds from the sewer fund can be used, transferred into the sewer debt fund to pay debt, pay down debt, yes. But it
Yeah,
initially
it is.
goes to the sewer fund,
Because we are carrying quite a debt.
yes. So this could be a good time for that fund. Any other questions from members of council? No? Questions or comments from the administration?
No, but Councilman Reisner, if I may, to comment to your comment, I think your question was great, because it does reflect that we do have a lot of debt yet on that sewer system. And our sewer debt fund is where that comes from to pay that down. And so to have the opportunity to put a significant amount of money to go towards our debt is, I think, a responsible thing to do.
Any comments or questions from members of the audience? Okay, that concludes the committee for this week.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Nicely.
We're adjourned for the evening at 7:47 PM, and we will begin next Monday night, October 2nd. Council will be beginning 1 hour early at 6 because we have the presentation. And then our business meeting will start at 7.